Good evening, I'm Dean Beck. Thank you very much for joining me. Now, the days of Commercial Road being the centre of Melbourne's gay community are long gone, replaced by a new paradigm illustrated in part by general acceptance and understanding of LGBTI people throughout society. However, we have a long way to go before we are truly equal, and LGBTI people have really had struggles along the way. Now, Victoria's Premier, Daniel Andrews, has recognised this in the lead up to the last state election, and he promised that if he was elected, he would appoint a Minister for Equality and Australia's first Gender and Sexuality Commissioner. Embedded in the Department of Premier and Cabinet, answerable to the Equality Minister Martin Foley, and the Commissioner is Rowena. Ro, thank you very much for joining me in Profile tonight.
Thanks for inviting me, Dean.
Your history in LGBTI advocacy is long and started where? In Shepparton, wasn't it?
Yeah. I took my first job in the country in Shepparton and set up the first group for same-sex attracted young people 20 years ago.
Tough place back then.
Tough place back then, and I was working for the local government, and I can remember going in the Monday after the Win television show where, you know, the new youth worker comes to town, and they did back then, and the young people came in the day after, Monday, after that aired, and said, "Great, you're here." And after I rubbed the tattoo, you know, lesbian off my head, they said, we want to start a group. And at the time, the council said, that I was working for, said, no, you can't do it. Now, I've never really dealt with no very well, Dean, so I went outside that to the Youth Affairs Network in Shepparton and had them auspice the group. And then soon realised that it wasn't the only rural town in Victoria that needed support. So I went to the Youth Affairs Council Victoria and we set up a statewide network. So as a youth worker, that's the basis of my advocacy. And of course my own coming out journey and the advocacy that took through candidating in the Uniting Church as well gave me a good foundation for that.
Tell us a bit about that, because people of a strong faith background do struggle with coming out. Was that something that was an issue for you being a part of the Uniting Church, or were they very accepting? Well,
the Uniting Church has always had a social justice bent, and I was very fortunate to be in that denomination with people that really understood equality.
It has ebbed and flowed throughout the years, hasn't it?
It is a diverse church. It is a diverse church,
sure.
Dean, and I was just very fortunate that the role models that I had at the time spotted me at a young age before I spotted myself, which is an often story, and guided me on the way. And a very special woman who was the Director of Social Justice, the Reverend Dorothy McRae McMahon, who stays today as one of my strongest mentors and supporters, you know, did take me under her wing and say, it's not a question between your sexuality and your spirituality. And that's what I tell a lot of people. It's not always that. It hasn't always been smooth sailing. And as a young person, I had my stint in an evangelical church, and you know, I can.
And really, many have walked away from their faith altogether.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I've stayed because I see the importance of that. And certainly, I've worked for the majority of my life for a faith-based organisation, for unitingcare, and they've been nothing than supportive of all the work that I've done.
They're at times a pretty radical bunch, actually.
Quite cutting edge. Yeah.
Now, how did unitingcare come to be a part of Shepparton's success story? Well,
I think the work that we did to begin with, and at that time it was very cutting edge. It was called Cutting Edge Unitingcare, and we were the first youth group in that space. But the board also allowed me to go to Melbourne and participate in the Minister Advisory Committees on Gay and Lesbian Health, which was back in the 2000s.
Was that your first introduction to sort of the political side of it?
Right, it was.
Okay. Yeah.
And so the board really understood the need to not only pull them out of the river, but go upstream and see who's pushing them in and be part of the policy development. So for my sins, I suppose, I sat on 3 of those Minister Advisory Committees, all ebbed and flowed differently under both sides of government, and chaired the one in the middle, which was where I picked a winner, I suppose, in Daniel Andrews. We did a lot of work with him. He was the Minister for Health then, and educated him on LGBTI issues, which has obviously paid off now. But, you know, they were some groundbreaking times, and you know, we were inching forward and getting policy there, but it's just taken flight now.
Back to Shepparton, the success story of Shepparton, we should tell the viewer that the LGBTI community is very much a part of the Shepparton community, and they're seen and out and proud.
That's right.
And I would like to see something like that replicated around the country, because it's just a little gold mine, actually.
It is, and you know, this weekend is the Out in the Open festival in Shepparton.
Acknowledged recently at the Globe Awards.
Absolutely. And there are really amazing people, but it wasn't an overnight success, you know.
And a lot of struggles along the way.
A lot of struggles. And, you know, my own story in Shepparton, I was physically assaulted, had lemons thrown on my roof and my car graffitied.
Wow.
So we've come a long way. When I gave birth to my daughter, I had hate mail. You know, it hasn't been an easy road.
Was that from, again, from faith communities, or was it just from the broader community?
From the broader, well, from the broader community. And in fact, it was the faith-based group up in Shepparton that got behind me and said, well, no, we're not running her out of town. These are issues. These are young people that are, you know, suicidal, and we need to be supporting and helping them. So, you know, I found Shepparton a great community, but it hasn't always been smooth sailing. And then, of course, I found other people to bring into the fold, like Damien Stevens, who's up there as Mr. Gay now, running everything. And he's just fabulous, and he's got a whole team of people around him. So it is about getting your champions and then building on that.
And is it a model that can be replicated, or is it really about those individuals wanting to own that task and run with it?
No, I think it absolutely can be replicated. Okay. I think it's easy to be the second town or the second
right.
community. I mean, we've already got Dalesford, we've got other Castlemaine, there's other friendly places. But it's really important. When the Minister offered me this role, I said to Martin Foley that I would be making sure that I went out of metropolitan Melbourne. For me, as you know, coming from the country, it's important that we go out and we go on the road. So we are hooking up the caravan and going out with Dolly Diamond and going and hitting all of the rural towns in Victoria that we can, that we're welcome to come to. And I think out of that, hopefully
the ones you're not welcome to come to,
we'll
are the
go
ones
to
you
them anyway.
need to go
yeah,
to.
We'll go to them anyway. But I'm a big believer in the carrot and the not stick approach. You go where you're invited first, because you've got the local people that need that authorising environment. You know, I've met people in Wodonga and people in Horsham that want to do fabulous things. They just don't feel they've got enough, you know, support to do that. So the Commissioner, in my role, is you know, it's an exciting way to be able to come and give that bit of a hand.
Keep an eye out for Rose Roadshow coming to you very soon. My guest in profile tonight is Rowena Allen, Victoria's Gender and Sexuality Commissioner. After the break, we'll find out what Ro's been doing since she was appointed, and that is right after this on Ben TV. You're watching Bent TV. My name is Dean Beck, and if you've just joined us, tonight's guest in profile tonight is Victoria's Gender and Sexuality Commissioner, Rowena Allen. Ro, since settling into your new role, I know you've scheduled a few meetings, but have you achieved anything yet?
I think so. I think so. I think getting round 21 of the AFL in 2016 as a Pride round, that was an absolute team effort. But it was great to be part of that process, and that'll be great. I think that it's certainly been the start of things. I've got 18 months before the evaluation, and expect a Survey Monkey in your inbox. But it is about, sometimes it's not about big things. It's about changing hearts and minds one at a time. And I know I've moved government ministers in their thinking, and in the background conversations that I've had, I've done a lot of education in that space. And I think in moving government forward, department by department or secretary by secretary, I think some of the things that I've done in the last 4 months, you won't see instant change, but I think you're going to start seeing very subtle things like forms coming out with M, F and other boxes that weren't there. You know, it's that authorising environment that the Commissioner is giving in some of those places. So not everything magical overnight. It
must be wonderful to work with leadership that is so behind the issue and just gets it and says, we need to do this, make it happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. And they're all really busy people too. I had 10 minutes with all the secretaries of the 7 departments. So I took in a bit of a checklist for them about the things that I'd like them to do, you know. And I thought that was quite good, about considering walking with me at Pride March and supporting the Rural Roadshow that I'm doing next year, and signing up to Pride in Diversity, which is an audit of their own organisation. And, you know, they're ticking madly. They want to be involved. Sometimes people just need to know how to do something. And sometimes we get paralysed by not wanting to offend, so we don't actually do something. So having someone you can check in with and say, right, what do you need, or how can we be more supportive in this area, they can do that. And I emphasise to particularly leaders in state government that you know, it's not always about resources. It's about physically showing and turning up and showing your support for something, and that's really powerful.
I sense that with so many corporates sort of taking on board LGBTI policies, that there is I guess a reward for them in doing so, and that is that their organisation becomes a far more welcoming place to all people.
Absolutely.
And a better business.
Absolutely. The Pride in Diversity, which is the audit of your organisation, PricewaterhouseCoopers and KPMG are falling over each other to get ranked in the top 20 in Australia. The four banks are just itching to get that top ranking. So they know something that the rest of us don't know, or that there must be money in this. As well as everything else, it must be good for the bottom line.
Because it's a hard slog to get all of those things in line. It's not easy.
No, it's not easy, and it's not just a rainbow sticker on the front of your office. It is a a full audit about being inclusive, and of course, it will make an organisation inclusive for LGBTI people, but then, as you said, everyone. And if it is a competition to get the smartest and brightest minds, and we know that more young people are saying, I want to work in organisations where it aligns with my values. And so it's really important. Or I want a bank where, we put our pink dollar. And I've said to a lot of corporates, Subaru has been marketing to us for absolutely years.
They got it right.
They got it right. They got it absolutely right. Most of the lesbians I know drive Subarus. And in fact, I've recently just bought another one. But they're marketed to the mainstream as well. So when I say that in corporate world and people look at me and go, but I drive a Subaru, I'm just like, okay. But, that's clever the way they've done that. And some companies have really got onto that. You
spend about 20% of your time with the LGBTI community, 80% with the broader community. Do you feel that you're connected enough to the LGBTI community, or is it as a representative, it's more about being that face out there in the big wide world?
Yeah, I suppose the 2080 rule is a vision at the moment. I reckon I'm probably spending 50-50. And I think in the first 4 months, that's really important to be...
You've done a lot of consultation and meetings.
Yeah, I've done a lot of things like that. But it's important that the LGBTI Victorians can look me in the whites of my eyes and make sure that I'm, going to be a good ambassador for their issues. So hopefully down the track that won't be as required. That I can spend a bit more of my time out in mainstream on their behalf. But it's really important that they keep me, as you do and others, keep me up to date with the issues, and so that I'm really advocating in the right places and the strategic places. But certainly this role gives me access and the ability to go into places that are, meeting with the governor or meeting with others or members of parliament. That is a real privilege, and I have to take those issues on behalf of the community.
You'd have to be the most approachable bureaucrat that I've ever come across.
Well, thank you. I take that as a badge of honour.
And it is a badge of honour because so many are surrounded by protectors, and you're just, here I am, come and get me.
Yeah. We have a very small unit, and they would love to send someone with me, like an advisor, everywhere I go. But I just say, I don't need you to do that. I really don't need you to do that because I'd rather you do the policy work and the important stuff back at the office. So they followed me out for a while. They realised it was probably safe enough. And the amount of work, because they don't just resource me as the Commissioner, they also resource the Minister for Equality. And so they do obviously they like to come out. And
that policy work has to be right first time.
Has to be done.
You can't muck that up.
No, and there's deadlines and cabinet deadlines and things that just have to happen. And, I think there has been historically a perception of people in government with, long white socks and cardigans that clock in at 8:35 and clock out at 4:40. It's absolutely not how it works. These are people that are dedicated and are in there till the job's done. If I leave at 8 p.m, they're in there till 10, and so it is a 24-hour news cycle, it's a 24-hour briefing cycle. It's fast and furious, and they're very, very skilled at what they do.
How has it been for you to get that cut through in the media space? Because it's such a new, I guess there's a novelty value at first, but after that you'll have issues that you want to get forward and push. Are you getting the coverage you want on those things?
I think I am.
Yeah.
I think, you know, mainstream television, we're not there yet. The other area that I particularly want to go into is multicultural media, so multicultural radio, Jewish radio and so on in different areas. So that's the next frontier, I think, to start working in. But certainly...
That's a big space for change too.
It is.
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
an enormous opportunity there, ripe for the taking, I think. And so there's some offers slowly coming in there, and I'll be, you know, be doing those. But I've done, you know, the Red Simons, the Neil Mitchells, you know, and I've been really welcomed there. You know, Neil Mitchell was fabulous until the red light went on. So, you know, but he was terrific, and he's very supportive about come back, bring an issue back.
Yeah.
So, you know, 5th month, maybe I'll work something up to go back and talk about with him. But yeah, I've been very welcomed, and it's been terrific. I'm not sure, you know, I'm ready for Hamish and Andy or that, but you never know.
Victoria's Gender and Sexuality Commissioner Rowena Allen is our guest in Profile tonight. Stay with Bent TV. We'll be back right after this short break. Welcome back. Dean Beck with you on Bent TV, and Rowena Allen is with me, Victoria's Gender and Sexuality Commissioner. Now, Ro, recently the Australian Christian lobby has been relentlessly harassing members of Parliament in both New South Wales and Queensland, specifically regarding the national rollout of the Safe Schools program. And much of the correspondence from the ACL has been vulgar and homophobic and actually factually incorrect. Has there been any of that to our MPs here in Victoria, the home of Safe Schools?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've spoken to both sides of Parliament about that, and they say that it's just, you know, it's just the inbox is so full of this, you know, chain emails that it kind of completely dilutes any messages they might want to be sending at all, and just frankly, it's just annoying them. So it's working in favour, really, of safer school projects. So
it's very sad, isn't it?
It is very sad, and it's very desperate, and it's very ill-informed. It's very ill-informed. And I've seen the Minister for Equality's response to one of the emails. He CC'd me into it. It was very clear. It was like, this is our policy. Thank you for your email. This is what we will be doing. Thank you very much. It's very clear that safer schools is here to stay. And as you said, it was developed in Victoria. It's now got a national rollout through the federal government, which is fantastic.
It saves lives.
It saves lives. And it's really around bullying and harassment in schools. It's not about propaganda and selling a gay message.
And what they're doing is actually, the extension of it is killing people.
That's right.
They throw themselves under trains because of that sort of homophobic carry on. It's really quite tragic.
Yes.
Do they not understand that? What's going on?
I think, as I said, I think it's incredibly desperate.
How do you talk to these people?
By a very small group of Christians. Like that, we have to remember that this is not. I'm a Christian, as you know, and as a lesbian. So, you know, there are a lot of Christian people that would be horrified to see what this group, in the name of Christians, are saying is what they believe. It's not that way. It's not that case. So yeah, it is very alarming, and you know, it's upsetting, and it's not working for them.
No.
It's like, I always think it's like a flapping fish out of water, you know. They know they've lost the fight on this. This is around inclusiveness. This is about God's love. They're not showing any of it.
Is this the sort of last hurrah for them, do you think? Is it that, or?
Well, remembering it's a small group of people, then they'll probably be, you know, going for a long time. It's just about making sure that we look after the young people in the process, that none of this filters through to them in schools, and then what does get to them in schools is the fact that they are welcomed, they are loved, they are supported, they are in a safe educational space where they can learn and be the best people they can be. That's what schools need to be doing and offering. And, you know, we need to make sure, as the significant adults in their life, that this kind of hatred doesn't actually filter down.
That plays out in other ways, and the government, federal government, wanting to have a plebiscite around marriage equality. Similar things could play out, particularly in the lives of young people, around that homophobic language coming to the surface, and giving people a platform to have that voice.
It does give people a platform for hate speech, and I'm very scared about the whole plebiscite idea. Personally, I'm on record saying I don't believe we need one. I think we vote politicians in to do this work for us, and they shouldn't sidestep that. And I think if we do have to have one and there's a long lead-up time, we're going to put a lot of energy and effort where we wouldn't need to otherwise.
And money.
And money into campaigns to make sure that the hate speech is countered with love. And it can be really, what a waste of time. What a waste of time and effort and energy when there are so many other things that we could be working on in Australia and Victoria, that we have to be spending our time combating hate speech.
Ro, you said this is the first job you've had where you can truly be yourself. Can you explain that to us?
Well, I think for my career along the way, I've chosen to be out most of the time, but this is the first time I've really been able to come out as, a gender diverse person. I've worked in government and I've, chaired statutory bodies before, and felt I was sometimes needed to femme it up a little bit more than I was comfortable with. So this is really coming home. This is a job where, you can absolutely be yourself. So I know how hard it is for other people. I don't encourage other people to come out, if it's not safe for their work or for their home or their family. But for me, I've just got the dream job. And Dean, I've been quoting Mark Twain a hell of a lot. There's 2 amazing days in your life, the day you're born and the day you realise why. And that's how this feels for me.
It's a pretty special space to be working in.
It's incredibly special, but I also feel the weight of responsibility to get it right. And it's not, the position not being about me, but the importance of having a commissioner for gender and sexuality.
Now, getting it right's an interesting thing, because in a gender diverse space, pronouns are always the sticking point. In media, it's a real tough one. And on the fly, when we've culturally grown up with male and female gender pronouns, we have a lot of learning to do in this space to be welcoming of gender diversity, and you're going to help us in the media make that a little easier, aren't you?
I'm going to be working with Kate Jenkins, the Human Rights Commissioner from the Human Rights Legal Opportunity Commission. It's on a list of things, but we certainly hope to get it done soon, because we're not going to be a very large resource, but a resource for media around gendering and misgendering. And this came on the back of what happened to Captain Kate McGregor in the media some months ago now. And it's not that difficult. The principles are pretty simple.
That was pretty malicious.
That was
example,
malicious.
though,
that was malicious. But it is saying we've got to get this right. And to do that, you just need to ask a person what their preferred pronoun is. And sometimes it's he, she, or they, or or just using the person's name. I'm very flexible, and I'm really hard to offend. So I'll answer to she, I'll answer to he, I'll answer to it. I'll
continue to muck it up then.
But
right?
My preferred pronoun is Ro. Really.
Sure.
And so it's and I muck it up. And I'm the Commissioner for Gender and Sexuality. There was a bet going between myself and a mate about how long it would take me to muck it up, and he said, probably about 2 weeks. I think it took me 4, but it's about the respect when you muck it up. It's about, saying, "I'm sorry, I meant this," or what you prefer, and just acknowledging it, because it is tricky. It is tricky.
Well, Ro, it's been wonderful to find out a little bit more about your role and what you've been doing of late, and it's clear that there's still quite a lot of work to do. But before we are comfortably numb in this blissful nothingness that is true equality, we wish you all the best, and may you deliver it one day for us all. We also want to say, you've got a thing about toilets that is your agenda. We must touch on that before we go.
Yeah, okay. I think I've been called the Commissioner for Toilets, but it is working with local government and working with town planners and others.
Why is it so important
to
have the
toilet thing? Well, because we know right now in Victoria there are kids refusing to go to school because they're transitioning, or they're gender diverse, or they're having issues about just the simple basic bodily function of going to a gender neutral toilet. And this is not about having men in women's toilets. This is about having single cell toilets that are appropriate for people to use as they need to. Myself, I only use disabled toilets because I get harassed if I use a female toilet. So, everything from, "Excuse me, sir, you're in the wrong toilet," to being bashed with a handbag by an 80-year-old woman. All fairly distressing, but it's not an isolated story. And this is happening right across Victoria now, and it's just something that we need to think about. We do need to think about it now, but as we build new schools, as we build new facilities, just a couple of single-cell toilets that everyone can use. All genders, all ability toilets.
Keep up the good work, mate.
Thank you.
Rowena Allen has been our guest in Profile tonight. I'll be back with another important show in a couple of weeks' time. Until then, keep tuning in to Bent TV. Take care. Bye-bye.
That's all the time we have for tonight. Thank you for watching. My name is Gavin Henderson. Please visit our website, YouTube channel, Facebook to keep in contact and support Bent TV.